All right. Hi, everyone. Very welcome to Formas information meeting about our annual open call. I am Beatrice Rindevall. I'm the chief editor of Formas digital newspaper Extract. And today we're going to have two blocks. The first block, we will have Sandro Caruso and Linda Bergqvist Ampel. They are senior research officers at Formas. Then we'll have a short break with some coffee and cake outside. And at our second block, we will have hints and recommendations from Leonard Sandin, who's an evaluator at SLU. And then we'll have experience from writing a Formas proposal from Emma Larsson at SLU and Christopher Lendl at KTH. After each block, we will take, or each presentation, we will take questions. So don't hesitate when the time comes. And good to know, this will be filmed, so you will also be able to see it afterwards. First, do you have any questions? No? Well then I will hand it over to Linda and Sandro.
Thank you very much, Beatrice. So I will start with presenting our annual call for 2016. Some brief information about Formas, who we are. So we support research for sustainable development within the fields of the environment, agriculture, sciences, and spatial planning. We work with all three dimensions of sustainability, meaning ecological, economic, and as well as social sustainability. We support both basic research as well as applied research. The research that we fund should be of the highest scientific quality, but also of relevance to society. And the way that we do this, so we focus our work around three main areas of activity. One of these are then of course research funding, but we also do strategy and analysis of the research that we fund, but also of Swedish research in general within the areas of our responsibility. And we also do research communication. We have a yearly budget for funding of about 1.2 million Swedish crowns. About 55% of that comes from the Ministry of the Environment and Energy, and about 45% of our budget comes from the Ministry of Enterprise and Innovation. And looking then at our funding instruments, we have the annual open call, and about half of our budget goes into that. We invest into that call, and but then we also have targeted calls for specific thematic areas, and that can be both national calls or international calls. And then a small part of our budget we invest in information projects, or if you would like to organize a meeting or a conference, you can apply for support for that. And looking then at our own thematic calls that we have coming up for the spring, we have one call that opened just yesterday for sustainable food production and consumption. It will close in April. We have another call focused on urbanization challenges and opportunities. And together with SIDA and VR, we have a call focused on resilience. And later on, we will open a call about animal welfare. And looking then at the international calls that we participate in, So we're quite active in something that's called the European Research Area Network, which means that we collaborate with research funders in other countries in Europe. Together we have thematic calls to have Swedish researchers collaborate with researchers from other countries. And as you can see, we have quite a few of these coming up during the spring within essentially all our different areas. And for more, so this was just a brief information on these thematic calls. For more information, you're welcome to visit our webpage at formas.se, and at the very first page you will find our calls, and both ongoing calls and future calls coming up. And there you will also see who at Formas you can contact to find out more information, who's responsible for the call. But we're here today to inform you a little bit more about our annual call. And this will open on March 3rd, so in 2 weeks, and will then be open in 6 weeks until April 14th, when we will close at 2 o'clock. So that will be important to remember. The funding decision will be made on November 10th. Then our research council will make the decision on which projects to fund, and we will publish those on the webpage the very same day. And the call text and more information about the call will be published on our webpage when we open the call on March 3rd. And a very important news for this year is that the call will be launched in the application system Prisma. This is a system that is new to us, but also the Swedish Research Council and Forte, who has been running their calls in this system for a year now. And now we have also joined. So some of you are probably already familiar with the system. But looking then at our annual call, it consists of 3 sub-calls. It is grants for research and development projects. There is grants for research and development projects for future research leaders. And then there is mobility starting grants for young researchers. And just looking at the annual call for last year, we received almost 1,400 applications, 1,379. We funded 204 out of those, which resulted then in a success rate of about 15%. And looking at the individual calls, the mobility grants had a success rate of 18%, future research leaders of 14%, and research and development grants success rate of 15%. So the general conditions for applying to our call is that all applicants must have a doctoral degree. That also applies for the mobility starting grants. However, if you have not received your diploma or your certificate of your exam yet at the date of the application deadline, you have the possibility to submit that to us until October 1st. But on October 1st, we need to have your diploma to be able to proceed with the application. And then also the grants can only be administered by Swedish universities or research institute or Swedish authorities which have a sort of a research as a big activity within their work. There is no age limit to apply, but retired researchers cannot apply for funds for their salary. We encourage international collaborators and stakeholders to participate in the applications. Another important thing is that you can have at maximum only one ongoing project as a project leader within our annual call. Meaning as a main applicant, if you received funding, for example, last year, you cannot go in and apply for funding in this call as well as a main applicant. And with ongoing, we mean that you have ongoing payments coming from Formas. So for the call for this year's call, we announced funding for 2017, 2018, and 2019. So if you have no further payments coming from us after December 2016, you are eligible to apply. So it's only the ongoing payment, because after the actual project period you have a time of disposal of payments, but that does not count as the project as an ongoing project. I will come to that. So some news that we expect for this year is that for research and development projects and for research and development projects for future research leaders, we have you can only apply for a maximum project budget of 1 million Swedish crowns per year. So if you apply for 3 years, that means a project budget of 3 millions. And then you're only allowed to come in with 1 application as main applicants to our annual call. So if you're eligible to apply in more than one of the sub-calls, you will have to choose one of the sub-calls where you want to participate with your application. So going into more of the specifics then of the sub-calls for research and development grants, you can apply for maximum salary funding of 150%, meaning 1.5 full-time positions. That is for researchers, doctor, student, postdoc, or technical staff. For researchers, you can at maximum apply for 50% of salary funding. For the doctor or student, postdoc, you can apply for 100% of their funding. You're also eligible. You can also apply for running costs like equipment, depreciation costs, or premises costs. At a maximum, you can apply for 3 years of funding. And as I said earlier, the project size can be 1 million, and on average 1 million per year. For future research leaders, there is essentially the same rules with a few exceptions. The main applicant have to have a doctoral degree that is between 2 to 8 years. And they can also apply for funding for 3 years. But one of the differences is the main applicant, so the future research leader, can apply for 100% of their salary instead of 50% for other researchers. And also the maximum project size is 1 million per year on average. For the mobility starting grants, we offer those to encourage young researchers to work in new research environments. It could be 1 or more. It can be abroad or in Sweden, even though we encourage research visits abroad. And the purpose then is to develop their academic career. For example, learning new tools, working with research questions of a different focus, and expanding their networks. The applicant can need to have a doctoral degree that is at a maximum 3 years old. they need to have what we call a home university, where they will be employed during the whole period of their postdoc or mobility grant, and then at least have one host university. So even though when you visit the host university, you're still employed at your Swedish home university and have your salary paid from the Swedish home university. The grants are for 24 to 48 months, and you need to spend at least 1/3 of the period you apply for at the home university, and at least 1/3 of a period at the host university, and then the other third you can place where you like. The visits at the host university you can split it up into several periods, but each period have to have a minimum length of 3 months. And as a part of the application, it's very important that the applicant describe both the home university as well as the host or hosts universities, how the research environment will help them to develop their career. What's the benefit of each of those places? Because that will be part of the evaluation for those proposals. And of course, then the candidate for the grant have to be the main applicant. So the young researcher, his or herself, need to apply for this grant. And then the applicant's salary should be at a level corresponding to a starting salary or a current salary at the home university. You can apply for overhead and premises cost according also to the practices at the home university. Then we will, in addition to that, we will also grant travel expenses for the applicant, and if you have accompanying family members, so a partner and or children. And this is something that you don't need to put up in your application, but we will add this sum based on a standard sum from Svenska Arbetsgivarverket. And that sum is based on the living cost in the country where you have your host university and how many family members you are bringing. And then what very important to remember is that we do not grant any running costs for the mobility starting grants. But so you need to be supported by your home university and or during the time when you're at the host university, either if your home university supports you then as well, or if the host has funding for your project. And now I think I'll leave it to Sandro to continue.
Okay, so now I will talk somewhat about the review process and how we handle your applications. And here you can see the timeline. As Linda said, we are opening the call now in the beginning of March, the 3rd of March, and we close it in April, the 14th. And then, as Linda also said, you will submit your applications in the system Prisma. During April till October, then we will handle your applications. They will first arrive to us at Formas, and then we will see to it that they get a fair evaluation. We'll send them out to the panels. I will talk about them shortly. The panel members will assess the applications, and they will end up with a panel meeting in the beginning of the autumn. And from that panel meeting, then we will have ranking lists from all 3 sub calls and all the panels that I will present to you. And those ranking lists will be the suggestions for the Formas Scientific Council that will take the decision in November, 10th of November, they will have the final decision, and the decision will then be published on our webpage the same day. So the 8 review panels that we have at Formas are the ones that I show you here now. And the most important thing here to remember is that these 8 panels should not be seen as 8 targeted calls, but this is rather a way for Formas to handle all these 1,400 applications that arrive to us, and also to see to it that each application will get a fair evaluation. You can see that the panels are broadly defined, and that is with the purpose to encompass all the areas of responsibilities for Formas. And when you decide on which panel you will send in your application, it's just important to remember that we at Formas, we will see to it that you will have 3 choices. You can choose 3 panels, and if we see, for example, that the second choice, that the panel members in that panel have higher competence than your first alternative, we will then move it. So we will see to it that each application will get a fair evaluation. And the review panel consists of about 15 to 25, I would say, panel members, depending on how many applications that will arrive. And one other important thing is also that these 8 panels, there will be an equal success rate in all these 8 panels. So you will not have to bother about sending it to the panel where there might be a higher success rate. They will all have the same success rate, because this will be depending on how many applications that will arrive to each panel. So we will see to it that the budget fits that. And the panel members, we will hear from one later on today here. They are the majority of them are active researchers, and we also have a minority of stakeholders, all of which have a research background, so they could all judge the scientific quality and also the relevance to Formas areas of responsibility. And the review panel as a whole should be able to evaluate all applications that arrive at the panel. So you will not be getting some final written statement from us saying that no, this application did not fit this panel. That should not happen, because every application arriving at the panel should get in equal treatment. And when necessary, when we see that we have a lack of competence within a panel, we also hire, external reviewers also, so that they will be evaluated. All applications will be evaluated by panel members or external reviewers with the high competence. And one important thing for all panel members is that they have to think about their conflicts of interests. And we have a list of what they should consider when they sign up for the applications. And one thing is that a panel member cannot submit their own application to a panel. That's a conflict of interest. And when we see that there are conflicts of interest, that panel member has to leave the room when the application is discussed then at the panel meeting. And we will keep minutes concerning these issues, and then so it will be transparent. The applications will be evaluated based upon 5 criteria with no difference in importance. All are equally important, all 5. We have 3 of scientific quality and 2 of societal relevance. I will talk some more about the societal relevance. One thing that is really important, and I think I will say this at least 3 times during my presentation, is that reviews, or the panel members, they only evaluate what is written. Do not expect them to read between the lines, because they will not do it. So think about this when you write your application. One thing that might seem very obvious to you might not do it for a panel member. So about the 2 societal relevance criteria, one important thing here is that you should describe your project in a larger context in relevance to society, and this could be relevance on a Swedish level or European or global. And again, as I said, this is the second time I say it. The evaluators will assess what is written, and they will not read between the lines. So it's also your argumentation for the societal relevance that is important. The evaluators will not evaluate based upon what they think is relevant or not, but it is how you write, how you argue for your project. And the second criteria for societal relevance was this communication, and you should not see a communication plan equal to just saying that, and then I will publish my work in some, I will publish some papers. This is not the same as communication with stakeholders, but here we are more after a dialogue or a cooperation with stakeholders. You will also, I think, hear about this from Leonard later on when he talks about evaluating applications. And in short, what happens? As I said, we close 14th of April. And then when we have all the applications, we will send them out to the panel members, and they will then have to declare conflicts of interest. They will also have to indicate their competence on evaluating that all the applications. And based upon that, then we at Formas will assign 4 reviews per application so that we have the most appropriate panel members for each application. The evaluation will be done in one step. So the panel members will have their summer vacation to do their evaluation. They will judge and score each application. And by the end of summer and beginning of the autumn, then we will have the panel meeting. And before the panel meeting, then we will, at Formas, see to it that the chair and the vice chair and all the panel members then will see all the evaluations so they can compare, and then at the panel meeting all the applications will be discussed. And the important thing here is that the original scores that were set during the summer, they can be changed. So it's during the discussion that most things will happen. The applications will go up and down in this ranking list, and at the end, when the panel has reached a consensus, we will have a final ranking list, and this list will then be presented to the Formas Scientific Council that will take the decision in November, in the beginning of November. And when the decision is published, all applicants will receive a final statement from Formas. And just some things to remember when you write your applications is that read the call text carefully. I think that you will also get some tips from our other speakers later on. Look at the criteria for evaluation. Make sure you address all the criteria because you get 1 score for each criteria. So address all 5 criteria. And again, the third time, it's only what is written that is going to be evaluated. The reviewers do not read between the lines. 2 other points, structure and clarity. Of course, it's very important when you write your applications, also for the panel members then to read. It's more easier for them to evaluate. And we strongly urge you to write in English because we have international panel members. And before I finish, I will just go through quickly some small things about Prisma, the Prisma system. Before you can send in your application, you have to register in Prisma, get a user account, and then once you have done that, you will update your personal profile, and then you will see what you will have to choose a type of grant you will apply to, and as Linda said, you must choose one of these 3 subcourses. You can't apply for more than one. fill in all the required fields in the form, attach appendices, and invite participants. So all participants in the application, they also need to have an account in Prisma so that they can be invited. And this is how Prisma looks like, more or less. Under my profile there, you will have all the links there for entering all your details about you and your work and your, I think, also add the publications and so on and so on. And when you click on the application and grant link, you will have something that looks like this, and here you will put in your application. And one thing that is new for this year is that in your publication list you are only allowed to highlight 10 of them. You can only include 10 publications. But we have something that we call bibliometric summary, if you see that in this slide. And there you can add some free text writing that I also have 30 others applications of which I am the first author of, so and so on. And you can also put in age index and things that you think that are important for the evaluation. But just 10 publication, you can just list 10 publication in the publication list, but you can write about the other ones. And I should also say, when we open the call, there will be more details on our webpage. You can click yourself to the part that you would like to learn more about. And what the application must contain is, of course, a project aim and objective, a project description, societal value and communication plan, because that's 2 of the criteria. A budget, and this is also, here we wrote about the publication list, maximum 10 publications. And this year, you will have to include your figures in Appendix J. Prisma is, we are working on Prisma, so I think that for next year we will be able to let you also include figures directly in the text. But for this year, you should do it in an appendix. And also K here, the Appendix K, that is for the research that includes climate and environmental data, and where the data collection is a big part of your project. We will have links also more about the details about this Appendix K when we open the call. And Linda also talked about the mobility starting grants. Here are 3 important appendices. Appendix G, where you describe the project and the research environment. And another appendix, then your doctoral degree. And if you do not have it yet, the thing is that you should have it by 1st October this year and send it into Formas. And also the Appendix L, the letters of invitation from both the home and host universities. So when they write, or when they give you these letters of invitation, they should be aware of that Formas does not cover running costs. So that should be part of these letters of invitation, at least in their minds, that you will have backup if you need some funds for running costs. Yeah, and to finish it off, just go into formas.se by the time the call opens, and there you will have more information. You will then see it on the link called current calls. There you will then find the annual open call. And I think that's all for me.
All right, perfect. Can Linda come up so we can start off with some questions? And we have a microphone here, and please use it, because otherwise the people in the movie won't be able to hear you ask the questions. So I don't know if this is on. Hallå? Det spelar ingen roll. Hallå? Nej.
Den var inte på.
2 sekunder. Nämen, strålande. Okej, vem är först? Vi har en hand här.
Yeah, thank you. 2 questions. One, do each of the panels have the same size of budget? And that the second question is overhead, something that you talked about running costs. I don't know if that's the same thing. Is there a percentage of the salaries that's the overhead?
The first question, now I forgot it, but I knew the answer. What was it? It was the
the amount of money for each panel.
Yeah, that's based upon how many applications that arrive at each panel. So it's proportional to the amount of applications arriving at each panel. And the other one, the overhead costs, we don't, we full finance the application. So whatever overhead you have at your home or your university or research institute, we cover it.
Within the future leaders, is it possible to apply funding for a postdoc that is not myself? And another question, can I also apply for funding for a university abroad as a future leader?
So yes, you can apply for salary funding for a postdoc that you want in your project. I'm not sure if I understand just your second question there. So if you have a partner at the university abroad, so yes, you can include a partner from a university abroad. If you want to have that partner as a co-applicant, you invite them as a participating researchers to your proposal, meaning that they will also have to register an account in Prisma. So, but that is if you want that person to be part of the evaluation of the scientific competence on the proposal, you can also have a partner that is not sort of invited in the application, but it's still stated that they should be in the application, and you can apply for salary funding for them as well. Important to remember is that we will pay the grant to you and to your research institute, and then you have to agree with the partner abroad how you fund them, if that is.
Thank you. That was part of my question as well. Is this the same for the ordinary research proposals when you have foreign collaboration? If you ask them to be part of Prisma, they will be evaluated and they have to be PhDs. And if you just invite them to, if you write them into the application, you can just sort of say who they are and you can ask for salary and it will be paid from Sweden.
Exactly. It's the same rules. So
and what about PhD students who are based in Sweden? Should they also get an account in Prisma, or should they just be sort of an XX person?
No. So for a PhD student that you want to have in the project, you can put a name down if you know who you want to have, but they can not be co-applicants. So you cannot invite them as participant researchers because they not have their formal degree yet. So all the ones that apply, they have to have a doctoral degree. But then important, if you're going to have a doctoral student, that in your application you state who's going to be the main supervisor. So that's going to be part of the evaluation as well.
Okay, I have two questions. Number one, what is the success rate for retired researchers? Because rumors say that it's extremely difficult to get grants once you are beyond 65 or beyond 67. I want to know the success rate. And number two is, if you apply for a grant that requires record linkage and service from Statistics Sweden, and we all know they don't do things for free, and they are not cheap. So if you have, for instance, if you're granted 1 million per year, if you could redistribute, take very little for the first year, for instance, and then 1.7 for the next year, when you know you need the service from Statistics Sweden and record linkage, and then the ordinary 1 million for the last year. Is that possible?
Yes, to answer your second question, yes. So it's an average of 1 million per year, but you can apply for less 1 year and more for another year. That is possible. Regarding your your first question, we don't have statistics on that. We don't follow the projects on that kind of basis on age basis. We just look at success rates for each of the subcalls, and then of course we can see it very easily for each of the panels, which is just based on the application pressure and then the budget that is there, and it should be the same for all the panels. So I would say that age is not those that are older are less successful. That is not something that we have seen, but okay. Okay.
I have a question that Formas puts stress on societal value of the research proposal, and there are some saying that by doing that, some research that are mainly into theories and purely academic proposal wouldn't have any chance going through Formas. However, they are of significance for the future of science. What's your comment on that one?
Yeah, when I was talking about societal relevance, I forgot to say that Formas also supports basic research. And there might be cases when you might see that the societal relevance, it's maybe in the longer perspective, it could be hard to describe in the short-term perspective. But if you have such a case, then it's your argument. So you could argue for that, and that will be evaluated. So we found also basic research, but it's your argument then that will be very important to say that the societal relevance of this project maybe is longer ahead in the future. So, yeah. But in any case, most research is societal relevance for us. But it's your argument that is important.
Can I just say we have a lot of questions in the audience, and we'll try to get them all, but it might take some time before I get to you. You're welcome.
Thank you. My question is something along the line with the former speakers, and I wonder if you could enlighten me about the former's responsibility and what you say, because I have some questions according to certain disciplines, and now I come a little bit more into details. But before, we had the discipline, for instance, veterinary medicine and animal sciences, which Formas sort of took care of. But then several of us who has applied got the answer that it was not within Formas' responsibility. So if you please could enlighten me about the responsibilities, and also to your beredningsgrupp 6, which says food or feed and animal welfare. Do you understand my question?
Yes.
Thanks.
Do you want to take it?
How should I start here? We take responsibilities for everything that is under agricultural sciences, spatial planning, and environment. But it's very difficult to answer your question because maybe this has been some special case, so it's maybe more of a case-to-case thing. Because in general, veterinary medicine and the things that fall into panel number 6, animal welfare, that's called, I think. If it's in Formas areas of responsibility, we should fund it. But I think it's very difficult to respond to this in a general term, because the things that you raise here might have been some specific things. So
I can just comment on that, because when I was in Formas board some years ago, and also in SEFR's board, then we had that certain disciplines within the open calls, not within the restricted ones, but as long as they belong to a certain discipline, the only place that the researcher could apply was at Formas,
or SEFR. So then they have to take responsibility for those applications because they can't go to the Research Council instead, because they said that, for instance, veterinary medicine, that's something for Formas. And then it's quite tricky when you sort of fall between the chairs.
Yes, but I mean, veterinary medicine is something that is within animal welfare.
But now you call it animal welfare, and that's...
Yeah, but okay, it's a broader term of more aspects of animal welfare. But I mean, veterinary medicine still falls under that sort of term. So I wouldn't say that we would reject to evaluate a proposal that addresses aspects of veterinary medicine.
Okay.
That's...
Yes, I have a question of clarification. Is it allowed to apply alone, basically? You don't have to have more than one organization or more than one researcher?
Yeah, no, that is absolutely okay.
Okay.
You can apply yourself for a project that you want to run for your salary. So it's totally up to you what you feel is needed to run the project that you propose.
I have two questions. One concerning what some other speakers were asking for earlier. This with the societal value and the communication with stakeholders. So if you are applying for a very basic research project, do you still need a communication plan for communication with stakeholders, even though that communication might occur in 10 years' time?
Yes, because that's one of the criteria, and you should address all 5 criteria. And I forgot to mention that this year we will have one new thing about the communication plan. That criteria is that we're going to have a checklist now, what we expect to be included in a communication plan, and then you can tick the boxes and see what we expect for you to put in there, but more details when we open the calls.
Okay. And then about the review panels, so if you select the wrong review panel, will you move the application to another one, or are you sort of lost if you if you apply to the wrong review panel?
No. That's why I said that you should not see them as 8 targeted calls, but instead this is a way for us to handle the application and to see that each application will end up in the panel where we have the highest competence. So you will not be lost.
When they come in, we go through them,
yes.
and we really see to that they get the best competence to evaluate them. So it's
great. Yeah. I noticed that one of the sub-calls included collaboration with VR and CETA. The question is whether that has any implications for a potential application to Vetenskapsrådet for something that would be very similar or cover the same territory, where one would try to piece together different parts of a larger project.
I'm sorry if I confused you because those were I just wanted to highlight some of the targeted calls that we have coming up. So that was not part of our annual call or the sub calls for the annual calls.
Okay.
So that is separate. Does that answer your question?
I think that helps. I probably confused myself,
yeah.
But that helps. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry if that.
Thank you. You say international research collaboration is welcome. Just wonder if it's possible to get any more out of you on whether partnering with Swedish research universities or institutes, is that a favourable thing to do? Is there a general trend in the grants that you've awarded towards more international collaboration, or do you have any comments on, is it welcome, is it encouraged, or more to say on that?
So you mean in the evaluation process, if they are more successful than proposal that does not have international collaboration?
For example, or if there were 2 universities with similar competence, is it viewed more positively to partner with the Swedish university, or is there any trend in the way Formas is awarding grants towards more international collaboration, or if you have any comments on that?
Yeah, no, we don't. We don't ask our reviewers to specifically look at that or see that as a positive, an extra positive thing with the proposal. So the main thing is that you have the adequate competence for the proposal that you suggest, and if that researcher is within Sweden or abroad of Sweden, it doesn't matter. That's not part of the evaluation. It's really that you have the adequate competence to do what you propose to do. That is.
Hi, there is an intensified interest in film and other ways of visual communication, also within research. I wonder what if Formas has thought about this as a different way of conducting and communicating research in its own, and not as a communication project, and what your stance is on that.
So you mean in general, if we are thinking about producing more films about research that we fund, or do you mean for researchers to?
I'm meaning that researchers use film themselves as a method, but also as a way of delivering knowledge.
I mean, yes, of course. I mean, we see that in some proposal, and I think, as you say, as a method, I guess that could be a method for collecting data or so in some fields or for some specific projects, and of course, if that's adequate, that for that proposal or what you want to do, of course you should do it. So we don't have that as a specific evaluation criteria or so, and it's the same thing with communication. If you feel that that's the adequate format for communicating the research to a specific stakeholder group that you have identified, that's what you should present on that criteria, and that's so. It's absolutely what you feel is the best measure for or means for what you propose.
Yes, thank you. Two specific questions. One is regarding the budget that Formas finances, even overhead costs. I was wondering, how do you calculate cost of salary increases per year? Is it an average? Should we make an average of the salary increase, or can we use that as a criteria? And the second question is with the Prisma calls. If you're a few researchers from the same institute, should every researcher register on Prisma, or is it enough that one person from each institute registers? Thank you.
So regarding your question about Prisma, so it is if you want to have your colleague as a participating researcher, yes, then they will need to have their own account, because it is with their own account that they can put in data in their CV, and it's the CV that's part of the evaluation, right? So it's not the connection to the organization or so. Your first question was, so salary increases. So we don't grant funding for salary increases. So you apply for the salary that you have when you apply, or if it's for a new position, the starting salary at that institute or so. And then that's what you apply for the 3 years. That's the rule we have.
Well, take that two different persons apply for a grant and have, say, 4 co-applicants. Is it okay that some of these co-applicants are the same in both applications?
Yes, it's okay. The only thing here to remember is that if you receive grants, one researcher cannot have more than 100% of salary from Formas in all the project that person is involved in. So, yeah.
I was wondering, what's the threshold for the grade to get funded? Like you have 5 grades out of 7, I think. And so I guess is that the average, and is it 6.2, 6.3, something? Is it not public?
Yeah, it's difficult to say what's going to be this year. Last year, I think that was it general that it had to be 6 at least?
In general,
the overall score, yeah. So, and it's not an arithmetic mean. So it's not that the panel takes all the 5 criteria and do an arithmetic mean of all the. It's a consensus. They also discuss this overall grade. Yeah, and that's one thing that we are working for, because we have seen that we have lots of excellent projects that are not funded, and that's why we are working for that we are raising our success rate. So if you remember the slide that Linda showed you, just 2 years ago we had a success rate of 8%. Last year we had 15%, so we are trying to increase the success rate, because we see that there are many excellent projects that are not funded. So we are aware of this.
So going back to the issue on societal relevance, if you're going to do an extensive research project that is relevant to society, you probably need to do quite a lot of preparation and engagement with societal partners to actually understand what is societally relevant. It's not always the research community who are best at making that decision. So before writing an extensive proposal, there's quite a lot of work to be done. Do you have any way in Formas to fund that kind of work so that the research proposal, when it arrives, is actually credibly, scientifically or societally relevant?
So you mean like a grant for proposal writing or
a grant
preparation?
For a co-design process, a process of engagement and understanding where research is needed and what. How to do it so that it delivers what society needs?
No, we don't, unfortunately not. No.
Yeah, I just have a question about the international collaboration. It also connects to societal relevance in a way. Is there any constraints or limitations or preferencing in the process towards the geographical focus of a research proposal?
Yeah, so no, it can be relevant to Sweden, but it can also be relevant to any other country or area around the globe. So just because I know that some people confuse it, but just because we say societal relevance, you relate it to relevance for the Swedish society. That is not the case. So it can be relevance to any kind of society around the globe, really. So no, there is no geographical constraint on the relevance criteria.
Okay, and you don't give preference for some other geographical focus that may include less wealthy countries or poorer countries?
No, that is not part of. That is not a criteria for the evaluation or so.
Okay.
So it's
a question regarding Prisma. The participating researchers, they needed to add their information, CV information themselves in Prisma. And they also need to add their publications then, their 10 publications. Or is it you as the main applicant that registers 10 publications?
No, it's you. You will have to choose which 10 publications that you will include in the proposal.
Okay, so it's 10 in total for yes. all the researchers? Then?
No, for you.
For you, okay.
Yeah. And then you are participating researcher has to present 10 of their 10 publications as well that they think is fair for what you propose.
And a follow-up question on publications then, because I know VR had some problems and Forta had some problems with the publications previously for the database searching for publications. Have you considered that inviting international researchers to participate in your proposal will take quite a lot of time to add CV information and publications for one application?
Well, so yes, but on the other hand, it's 10 publications. It's not so much. So we rather use Prisma as it's supposed to work than trying to upload PDFs or so. So I think that putting in 10 publications just specifically for the proposal that they want to participate in is not so bad. Also, when we publish the call text, you will also see the restrictions for each of the CV criteria. So I mean, they don't need to put in more information than what is needed for the specific proposal that you that they participate in. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Just Prisma, that's going to be new for everybody a little bit. So when you register your profile, do you put your CV into it, and is that a permanent thing? Because the publications lists that we have in our CVs are changing from year to year. So that's the first question. The other one is, will it be possible to add as many publications as one likes in the CV?
Yes, so your personal profile in Prisma, it's all the information stays there. So all you have to do from year to year is to update the information, put in your new publications that you published, and they will be there. And then the neat thing with Prisma is that both we, VR and Forte, at this stage use the same system. So if you want to apply for VR, I mean, the same, you still have your information there, and you just connect from your personal profile what you find useful for this proposal that you want to propose. So it's so it stays in there in your personal profile. You just update it from year to year, or when you think that, okay, now I have some new information that I want to include in a proposal instead, you just write it in and it's there. So. No, it's not. Yes.
To clarify on the number of applications that one may submit, does this mean within a particular sub-call, for example, the research and development grants, that you will only be able to submit one application as a main applicant?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any more questions? One.
Or does it mean that you have skipped this retro time span, that don't add publications older than take publications from the last 8 years or 5 years? Or so if you think 10 applications are very apt, but one of them happens to be from 1893 or whatever, so I might just as well add it.
Yeah, so it's up to you. You choose the papers that you find most relevant to present for the proposal that you are presenting. So I want to show that I have published in these fields and those publications, and there is no time constraint on that.
All right, we have time for one last question. Later on, we will also have all the speakers, so you will be able to ask more questions at the end of today. Well, then we want some coffee, right?